Welcome to Bosco Campus Vision. You're watching the campus television channel of Don Bosco College, Kottayam. This lecture is on the prescribed syllabus of 5th semester BA English Literature and Language. Paper is Literary Criticism. This is part 2 of the lecture on John Dryden. Now let's see John Dryden's view on tragic comedy and how he defended tragic comedy. According to John Dryden, the contraries, that is tragic and comic, when placed near, set off each other. Continued gravity depresses the spirit. A scene of mirth thrown in between relieves and refreshes. A scene of mirth that is emotion flowing, humor accompanied by laughter or merriment, jolly, that is what is mirth. Next, compassion and mirth are found together in nature. They do not destroy each other. Next, just as the eye can pass from one unpleasant object to the pleasant one, so also the soul can move from the tragic to the comic and much more swiftly. Next point, tragic comedy is a new way of writing unknown to the ancients. The ancients cannot be a model for all time and countries. Ancient means ancient authors, classical authors. Dryden held that tastes, fashions and techniques change from generation to generation and each age has its own genius. What may work in one place and time may not be so effective in another. Though nature is the same in all places and reason too the same, yet the climate, the age, the disposition of the people, that is the arrangement or placement of certain things, that is the disposition, that is the disposition of the people to which a poet writes may be so different that what pleased the Greeks would not satisfy English audience. More characters add variety but manage them without confusion, as Ben Jonson did. Next, let's see how John Dryden defended poetry, that is defense of poetry. Natural words in a natural order make the language natural, whether it is verse or rhymes that are used. Rhymes may be made natural by the use of pun on lines or the manipulation of pauses and stress and the change of meter. If poetic prose fit only for comedies, rhymes verse alone is suitable for tragedy. Rhyme is used in all civilized nations of the world. Rhyme is liked by the nobility whose judgment alone counts. Rhyme is an aid to judgment and makes it easier for poets to control the free flight of fancy. Rhyme, the noblest kind of verse, is suitable to tragedy, representing nature exalted to its highest pitch. Next is Dryden's justification for the violation of the unities. The violation of unities lends greater copiousness, that is vast in quantity or number you can say, and variety to the English plays. So what Dryden says is violation of unities that lends, that gives greater quantities or greater number of or variety of works in English plays. The English plays have a narrowing and cramping effect in French plays. The disregard of unities enables the writer to present a more just and lively picture of the human nature. Just may be used in the sense of decorum and correctness. So that is right, correct, proper or adequate you can say. And lively in the sense of vivid and lifelike, that is representing life, full of life. Next, let's see what according to Dryden is the chief function of poetry. According to Dryden, delight is the chief function, if not the only aim end of poetry. Instruction can be admitted, but in the second place. For poetry only instructs as it delights. The pleasure of a work of art is caused by a sense of the beautiful. It is true that to imitate well is a poet's work, but to affect the soul and excite the passions, and above all to move admiration, a bare imitation will not serve. So, the poet imitates and recreates life, and with the help of fancy and imagination. Imagination, regulated and curbed by judgment, shapes the raw material of life into a thing of beauty. So, Dryden uses the word fancy and imagination to mean the same thing. Judgment is an important requisite, but it is fancy that gives life touches. So, with the help of fancy and imagination, things are made beautiful, and poetry becomes delightful, and that becomes the chief function of poetry. And according to Dryden, instruction comes in the second place. Next is heroic poetry. Dryden regards the heroic poetry or epic as the greatest work of human nature. He considers epic superior to tragedy because its action is more extensive. Its heroes are perfect and its style more lofty and ornate. Due to the limited area, the tragedy has to leave out many things and thus fails to make the deep impression which is made by an epic. Now, let's talk about another work by Dryden, that is Essay on Heroic Tragedy. Other name is Preface to the Conquest of Granada, published in the year 1672. This is a Restoration era stage play. The plot deals with the Spanish conquest of Granada in 1492 and fall of Muhammad XII of Granada, the last Islamic ruler on the Iberian Peninsula. This is written in heroic verse. Heroic tragedy must have the dignity, majesty, and grandeur of a heroic poem. The themes of heroic tragedy should be love and valor, and its chief function is to arouse admiration and not pity and fear. Dramatists can introduce the improbable and the marvelous or supernatural. The grounds of criticism elaborate Aristotle's conception of tragedy and Longinus' conception of imitation. In his preface to An Evening Love, he takes up the points of difference between comedy, farce, and wit. Next work is Preface to Fables, published in the year 1699. In some books it is given as 1700. This work is in praise of Chaucer and is Dryden's masterly appreciation of Chaucer, Ovid, Homer, and Virgil. Preface to Fables is a swan song of the father of criticism. In the preface written after 1685, Dryden puts up a spirited defense of English drama against both the moderns and the ancients. Moderns indicates the modern writers and the ancient indicates ancient writers. A masterpiece in critical method and judgment, the preface is remarkable for its masterly appreciation of the artistic merits of Chaucer's characters that are individualized by their inclination and physiognomies. Physiognomies meaning the art of deducing the character or personality from bodily appearance. The matter and manner of the tales suit the characters, and the rich variety makes him comment, "Here's God's plenty." In language and versification, Dryden considers Chaucer a rough diamond that should be refined and polished. Chaucer wrote in the infancy of our poetry, and so perfection should not be expected of him. In this lecture, we discuss defense of tragic comedy, defense of poetry, then Dryden's justification for the violation of unities, and the chief function of poetry according to Dryden, then heroic poetry and some of the works by Dryden, that is essay on heroic tragedy, preface to Fables, etc. Do the given exercise and submit on time. Thank you.